Hello again. This is Crew Call here on Motor Racing Network. So glad you joined us. Going into the garage area, talking to the men and women behind the wrenches. Todd Gordon and Steve Post here, and we are coming off a wild weekend at Auto Club Speedway. Todd, when we look at Auto Club Speedway, new is the phrase that pays, because it seemed like other than maybe the steering wasn't probably even different. The driver's seat maybe was about all that was not new. It was something else to be part of.
Yeah, definitely a great weekend to show up for practice and qualifying. Was not monotonous or boring. Lots to learn with this new car, and all the teams going through the learning pieces. It was really exciting to see not only the struggles that they had, but watch teams recover from those. We saw several cases throughout the race where you can say guys had troubles and recovered back. Great race and great option for guys to make recoveries.
I got to be honest with you. When we had the practice and qualifying mess that we had on Saturday, and then the Xfinity Series race, and that's a car they've been running for a while, that was not a whole lot prettier. I went into Sunday thinking, ew, what are we going to see? We ended up seeing a really good, compelling race with a lot of things happening over the course of time and a great battle at the end for the win.
Yeah, definitely. And Dave Elenz going to be on with us later today, can talk about it. Ran up front all day long. Their program was stellar throughout the race weekend. But definitely saw, and one of the things in retrospect, looking back at the weekend, a lot of wind on Saturday and gusty wind. We had like 25 gusts into 40, 45. And I think that played with a lot of the aerodynamics of these cars, both on the Cup side and on the Xfinity side. And Sunday calmed down wind-wise, and the racing seemed to be really good, but calmed down and got normal.
It did get normal. I'm going to ask you about three different aspects where we're at, and it can be Auto Club specific, but we also factor in Daytona and the Coliseum. What's your thoughts on the car? 3 races in, 3 events into this car.
No, I think it's done a phenomenal job. I think in anything, when you bring a new car out, you're going to have challenges. You're going to have things that you didn't anticipate. And that's whether that's the OEMs bringing a new product to the market for the consumer, or whether it be a race car. I mean, this is a whole new. It's not. We didn't just put body panels on the existing chassis. This is everything new, and there's been some challenges with it. You know, we've talked about flat tires and getting cars off the racetrack. That's something that we'll all learn on. I think the drivers will learn to control that as well, and not, you used to hear the old thing that lock them down, lock them down, lock them down. You need not to do that now. You got to let the tires roll and not blow the tires out and still drive it back to pit road. So lots to be excited about. I think the industry as a whole has done a phenomenal job of getting the right aero package on this new car, and you see them make contact with each other at the clash. You see them make contact with the wall, and we don't see cut tires.
Yeah,
the composite bodies have been a phenomenal piece, and we saw the 4-car Kevin Harvick wreck in practice and fix it.
Yeah,
that's something we would have never seen with the old cars. So I give the car an A. It's still got things to work on, but as a whole, they've done a phenomenal job.
What I find fascinating, and we're going to learn more at Las Vegas, and we're going to learn more at Phoenix, and we're going to learn more in Atlanta and on Bial. Listening to, and I think it was Kyle Busch's team, they had an overheating problem. And I think one of the challenges of this car is we have dealt with overheating problems the same way for how many years, and now it's so different. And I think Ben Bayshore said, we're trying to put all the pieces back together under the hood. I think that's a fascinating part about this is thrashing on these cars, and there's nothing from last year that really matters in many instances.
Yes, the knowledge of last year is gone. And it's, when you had overheating issues, you pull a little tape off the grill. There's no tape on the grill anymore.
Yeah.
So you've got to figure out what's causing it and alleviate those problems. I'm sure that they'll have that addressed by the time they get to Vegas this weekend. But even the 16 College car, Matt Swiderski was on. They had a shifter issue where a roll pin came out of it. Well, roll pin? We didn't have roll pins in shifting linkages last year. So kudos to those guys for identifying the problem and coming up with a solution on the fly.
Yeah. It's like it was something that was never even part of our itinerary going forward. The second thing I want to ask you about is the practice and qualifying format. 15 minutes of practice, right straight into qualifying. I mean, and I know it was messy. There's no denying, and we've talked about the wind and everything. The format itself, just what's your take on it as we move forward?
I was a little suspect about 15 minutes not being long enough, especially with how long it takes to make changes on this car. But with all the spin outs, that gave them breaks to go work on them. So maybe NASCAR anticipated that we'd have red flags during practice, but it's an opportunity to figure out where your travels are and work on your car a little bit. I think it's cool. I think I thought it was a lot more exciting than I anticipated before it started. But talking to the crew chiefs and the drivers, some guys are just going to make long runs out of those runs, and some guys will try to split it into 2 runs. And I think it'll be a different outlook coming to Vegas this weekend because you don't have the tire fall off that you had in California. So it'll be cute. It'll be interesting to see. I was going to say curious to see what how these things are handled going forward and how involved in action there is in those practices.
It is. It's really neat. The final thing I want to ask you about, because it's something that, we saw a ton of them, pit stops. So much different on the pit stops. Just what's your take on the athletes and how they are adapting to this car? We did not have pit stops at the Coliseum. Daytona's kind of unique. The goal is not to be last off from pit road, but we had many, I think 10 or 11 pit stops, and they were all the race off from pit road. What was your take on the pit stops?
Yeah, it's a whole new game for them, and the game's gotten so fast with a single nut, but mistakes are big penalties at this point.
Yeah.
And we saw that. You saw, it's my old driver. I had him on late shift.
Did you?
Monday,
Okay, yeah.
Talked about their issues. They must have lost 20-some spots on pit road through the day. And they had a car setup issue that was making it where the right rear tire couldn't get out of the hole. So all the things, new cars, new pieces, new, and they had made some changes in practice. They had checked it at the shop, but they'd made some changes in practice that they didn't know where it would affect the pit crew side. So all things that the notebooks were thrown out last year, and they're making all new ones now. And those are things that people will be aware of going forward.
I talked to a couple tire changers in the sport. I talked to Ryan Flores, who's the front tire changer for Austin Cindric.
Yep.
And we all know Ryan Flores. And I actually talked to a friend of mine, Brianna O'Leary. She's in the development program at Ganassi. And I shared with her what Ryan said. Ryan was sharing with me the stress that he felt after about 7 pit stops on Sunday afternoon, and it struck him that all of the stimuli, all of the this is happening, that's happening, this is happening, it used to happen in about 12 seconds, and now it's happening in 10 seconds. And Ryan said, I'm trying to get my mind around it. And then talking to Brianna, who's in the development program, she says, she's been in Xfinity Series cars. She hasn't been on a Cup car yet. And she says, wow, that's wild that what we're going to do when that Cup thing is 2 seconds faster, yet we really do the same thing, but we're doing it 2 seconds faster. I think that, to me, that mental game with those athletes that pit out the car, that's going to be fun to watch how they react to that.
The adaption's going to be big. And then the guys that have to do, talk to Andy Petrie a little bit about this, but the guys that have to do both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So they've got to flip back from 5 nuts to single nut. And we saw an issue with the 24 where he couldn't get the left front off, and on TV there were sparks flying out. Well, you have to engage this gun stationary. It can't be spinning when you engage it. It's got to engage the nut and then go. So it's the whole timing to them is different, and different between the days if you're going to pit both days. So there's a lot in pit world it's a big race. It's a big race. The pit road is a big race of the day. So a lot for those guys to get through, and somebody's gonna. The 8 car had a phenomenal day.
Oh, they were so strong.
They were really good
consistently every time.
Yes.
I'm down on the pit out. And it's like, he's gone. I mean, there were sometimes it was a race off from pit road. Most of the time it wasn't a race off from pit road. It was who's going to be second behind him.
Yeah. So some guys are going to get it, and the rest of them are going to have some work to do to catch up.
Yes, I'll tell you what. Well, I'll tell you what. It is great to break that all down. Always appreciate getting your insight as we move forward to Las Vegas and to Phoenix and onward. As you had mentioned, Dave Elenz from up at Petty GMS Racing, that famous number 43 car. They had a third-place run, and he joins us here on Crew Call in just a moment. Crew Call rolling along. Todd Gordon and Steve Post here from the Motor Racing Network, and joining us after a strong outing at the Auto Club Speedway, crew chief for Petty GMS Motorsports, Dave Elenz joins us on the Zoom call. Hello, Dave. Welcome into Crew Call.
Hey, thanks for having me on. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing well. Dave, the sport is a lot about momentum, a lot about energy, getting a good start. I would dare say with the Coliseum and the Run It Auto Club, you've got to feel pretty good about the way things have been for you guys in that 43 car.
Yeah, we've been very happy with the results we've been producing. The run at Daytona was very good until we got caught up in that late accident. So feel good about the direction we're moving in, and just trying to keep up the hard work to keep the speed that we have in the car right now, and just keep the momentum rolling.
You talked about it, and I made notes of it, but excellent speed, all three events. I felt like top 5 finish at the Coliseum, third place finish this weekend, and you were a contender until you got caught up at Daytona. What's been the key with this new car to creating speed for you?
I mean, I think, like I've said a few times this week, everybody has the same components that they got to dig from on these cars. There's no advantage by making better parts, better pieces, spending more money at it. You have the same options as everybody else, so you can choose to place the components and pieces wherever you want. You can choose to place the body in the same points that the other guys can. So it makes it a lot more even for all the teams out there. And I think that's been the reason that we've been as competitive as we are right now. Obviously, Eric Jones is a really good talent, and he's very hungry right now, so that's helping us. But I think the next gen car, and it's just equalized things up a lot for us. So
Yeah. Your shop is Statesville, right at the airport there?
yep.
And you keep an RCR alliance. How much support do you get being off campus, or are you kind of on your own just getting data?
Yeah, I mean that's been a growing relationship. Obviously when I started, we were Petty's up there on campus at RCR, and it was a little bit easier and different of a relationship with them. You're right down the street, so you can roll into their shop and do whatever you need. The hour drive to Statesville has kind of hampered that. Just getting over there to Hawkeye cars and dyno cars, it just adds time to what we have going on. So it's a little more difficult now, but we get starting builds for cars. We get their information on, kind of where they're at presently. And that's been a big help to us. Tyler and Austin up there are running really well as well right now. So that gives us a little bit of a benchmark to see and know that we're going in the right direction. So that's definitely been good for us.
I think, you look at everybody within that RCR contingent, all 6 of you have been exceptionally good. As you mentioned here, and I wondered about that, when you signed on to this job at the 43 car, it was Petty Motorsports, right? And then
Yep.
You've been through a transition off of that campus back to Statesville and Petty GMS Motorsports. How's that transition gone and the relationship building going?
I mean, that's been an extremely tough transition. It's just a lot of work, a lot of moving parts from it. With the shops being an hour away, there's a lot of employees that just you can't make a drive that far. So that changes your life. So we've had some turnover and really good people that we had, and it's just been tough all the way around. But everybody at GMS, now Petty GMS, has been very welcoming. We've been working very hard to get people together, and I feel like we've turned the corner and they're kind of unified as Petty GMS, and ready to move forward with the season now.
You're working up there under the direction of one of the all-time great characters in the sport, Mike Beam. Not character as far as like a DW, flamboyant out there, but just one of the guys in the trenches that's been there, done it all, has a funny story with it. What's it been like to be working with team president up there, Mike Beam, and getting to work along side by side with him?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know Mike before this merger, so it's been very fun to get to know him. He's definitely very passionate about the sport and wants to see us succeed. He's been very, very good to work with, because he gives you everything you need or desire to try to run good with, and he's kind of hands off and lets you do what you're going to do with it, and steer you if you get out of the lane he's kind of wanting you in. But he's giving all the resources and definitely all the stories to go with back when he was doing it. I think in '81 he was with the 42 car with Petty's. So
That's
I've that story just a handful of times so far.
Yeah.
And you never have to doubt where you stand with him. He's pretty clear to you, right?
No, yeah, no, that's for sure. He's going to let you know how he feels.
Yeah, I got to work with him for a couple of years. That was pretty cool. You know, why do you think we saw so many cars in practice and qualifying having issues? What's your take on that? What are we fighting? From a crew chief standpoint, what's this new car challenge that everybody's struggling with at this point?
Well, I think, there's definitely, a group of cars in any change like this, there's going to be a group that hits it right away and a group that doesn't. I think some of those cars, obviously, their groups just didn't hit it and they're not handling correctly, whether it be too hard on the stops or bottom out in blocks or just the wind that we had in that, and they were just that far on edge. I think that's part of it. And I think another part of it is drivers' expectations. There's a lot of guys out there that just give it more throttle and go put that lap down and be heroes. Doesn't seem like that's as easy to do with this car. That extra little bit is what gets you in trouble, and thinking years past, that extra little bit is what, really made some of the guys extremely good because they could do that consistently, run after run, lap after lap. And, that limit, that line is much smaller than it has ever been. So I think guys that are a little more reserved and protective of what they have going on and not necessarily making speed by being over the limit all the time are perhaps going to excel with this car.
You've been around, Dave, so many great racers, especially your time over at Junior Motorsports. You have the win list itself is impressive, let alone the racers. Noah Gragson, 5 wins, William Byron, 4 wins, Tyler Reddick and Kevin Harvick, 2 apiece, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Chase Elliott. I lay that all out. You've been around a lot of racers. Your driver now, Eric Jones, how good is Eric Jones?
Eric Jones is extremely good. Obviously, that list that you have right there is extremely good race car drivers, and I would put him towards the top of that list. I think personality-wise, maybe he's to the quiet side of that list, but talent-wise and ability and an understanding of what's going on throughout the races, he's to the top side of that list, and I've been very excited to see that in the first couple races that I've worked with him.
Really cool, and it's been exceptional what you guys have been able to put together. This West Coast swing with a new car, it's a challenge. What are your plans, and how does the inventory kind of shuffle for you? Obviously, you're out in the West Coast still on between California and Vegas through Phoenix. How does this all work out for you?
So it's very challenging to begin. It's hard. It's hard with the parts inventory right now. It's really hard to make plans because you're having to take one thing off another thing to keep going, and you kind of got to run the race and see what you damage before you can make a plan for next week. So we're currently going to run the same car that we ran at Fontana at Vegas this weekend. So we've spent the last 2 days redoing the body, trying to fix it all up. The service on the actual suspension components is not labor intensive right now. So that didn't really hold us back that much, and we feel pretty good about where we got the car back to. And we'll run it at Vegas, and then I think between Vegas and Phoenix, we'll go home and try to pile up whatever we have left and put it to the Phoenix car because right now we have 3 cars and not enough splitters or right side rocker boxes to go on all of them. So it's just kind of wait and see, and we'll assemble all the pieces when we get them. So unfortunately, that's what we're in right now. It'll get a lot better once we get some more production done. And I think this car will provide a lot of opportunity for our group, other groups like ours to, compete with the bigger organizations and be able to get a competitive car a little bit easier than what we would have had to do in the past.
You need Eric and Ty to take care of those things. That's what you need while getting the most out of them. That's for sure. Dave, I kind of want to play off from that. What you just had indicated. You have had a great career, 7 years at Junior Motorsports. You're in the Junior Hendrick family. That is one of the big teams. The decision to jump now into the Cup Series and to jump in with an upstart, a smaller team. Can you kind of walk us through the process that you went to make this decision to join the Petty GMS Motorsports team?
Yeah, I mean, I had kind of been waiting for the next gen car to come around. It was 7 years since I was out of the Cup Series, so in that time, the rules had changed quite a bit. So I was pretty far away from knowing what they had and knowing how to be competitive with it. So in my mind, I wanted to wait until the next gen car came. Obviously, working with Noah for those 3 years, I feel really good about what we were able to accomplish and where he was able to get to. So just kind of waiting the new car out, and then the opportunity to work with Eric Jones. He's at the front side of his career. He already has his 3 or 4 years of learning in. That it takes a lot of drivers just to get a full understanding of. He's already done that. He's already been around. He's been in fast cars with really talented people. So, having an option to work with him, I think is one of the biggest things. And then the arrival of the next gen car for me to put everybody back on an even playing field.
Yeah, definitely. I got a similar experience to you. I got a kid that out of Gibbs that had his 3 or 4 years of learning, and nobody really thought he was that good, and he turned out to be pretty darn good.
That Logano boy turned out pretty good after a few years. That's for sure.
It worked out great. So a great opportunity, great opportunity for you there. Background: Michigan guy, went to Clemson.
Yeah. Two Clemson guys here. How about that? When did you? Yeah. Todd's a Clemson guy too. From this is.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Todd's from nearby down there in New York State, just like you're nearby to Clemson and Michigan.
Well, it's a lot warmer and nicer down there than
yes, it is
up north. So.
Always nice to say you're from someplace up there.
From someplace up there, not still there. Yeah.
But graduated Clemson. What year did you graduate?
2003.
Okay.
When were you?
I was way before that, 93. So I got
93. Oh, you got
that's
10
why
years.
I'm retired. He's coming into it. So, a really cool place to be from. But I've been just thoroughly impressed with what you've been able to do with that program. I know a couple of guys over there. I talked to your car chief before the race, and he felt pretty positive about where you were actually before practice, and really impressed with what you guys have been able to do. Thoughts on going to Vegas? What are you seeing out of this weekend?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit different. Obviously, Fontana has a lot different loading than what we do at Vegas. Mm-hmm. So just some of the things we're doing for attitudes to keep the platform right for aero at Fontana are going to be a lot different at Vegas. So we'll have to see, if we made the right decisions on that. It's all new to us. So, Fontana, we felt like we're holding the attitude correctly for the right balance, and Vegas is going to take a different set of parameters to do. I think we have a little more confidence in the tires that we're going to have and the life that we're going to get out of them. That was a major concern going into Fontana. And, I felt for the most part, other than one failure in the race, we were good through that. So I think we have a better understanding of where we need to be on that. And it's just a matter of, if the attitude control is what we need for Vegas. So we'll just have to see how it all turns out.
One of the things I asked Todd about in our opening segment was the practice qualifying format. Todd had indicated he didn't think 15 minutes was long enough, but they kept wrecking, so you guys had a lot of time with it. What was your take on your first run through this new era of practice and qualifying, Dave?
I like that they were wrecking and causing cautions because that gave us an opportunity to make changes. So, without that break in the practice, I think we ended up making 2 changes that really helped our race car in that practice session. And we wouldn't have been able to make the changes without the extra time. So, I like the idea of where they're trying to go. 15 minutes it's quick, especially at Fontana to get, off the racetrack on pit road. You're talking, 2 or 3 minutes just to do that. So I wish it was like 25 minutes maybe, which I believe this weekend we've extended to 35 minutes with all the cars. So I think that's going to work out well. I like the idea of limited practice and then going straight into qualifying. I think that'll be good. It'll be good for people that come prepared. And I feel like our team is going to be prepared when we show up to the racetrack.
Dave, do you ever sit back and think, I was watching that race unfold on Sunday afternoon, and and actually watching the Coliseum race, and I'm thinking, the number 43 car is going to win a race here. You're
Yeah.
going to, do you historically think about that you have your hands on the King's car, on that number 43 car?
Yeah, I kind of realized that after the race at Fontana. The amount of people that were excited to see that 43 running good, and I hadn't really thought much about that until after the race at Fontana. So it's pretty neat. It's a lot of fun to have Dale Inman at the racetrack.
Yeah.
So he's telling us stories nonstop, and they're super excited about the performance that we've had so far. So it is really special to have that 43 number and the 43 supporters behind you. And it would be nice to see that car back in victory lane.
It certainly would. My final question for you, and this goes totally off track. Okay. My understanding is that your family are loggers from up in Michigan. Your family runs a logging business, and that's why you decided to go racing. You didn't want to work that hard. Is that all accurate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. There we go. You didn't want to work hard. Okay. Now, I understand that every summer there is a log rolling competition on Lake Norman. And my understanding is, are you the champion of that?
It's a few years ago. I'm getting a little older, but yeah, I have a handful of championships on that competition.
Like, how big is this? Is this a bunch of guys standing around drinking beer? Do you guys take it too seriously? How does that work?
It's 100 people or so, and there is some beer that is drank. The first rounds are normally better than the end, but it's a good time. It's just a way to blow off some steam in the middle of the summer stretch.
Log rolling champion on Lake Norman, multi-time too. That's pretty cool. Dude, I've seen that stuff. Like, I've seen when they do the different competitions, like when ESPN has those sports, and it's like, man, that's just like, that's fun stuff.
Yes,
that's good.
Definitely is.
Good stuff. Dave, congratulations on the solid start to the season. We appreciate you joining us here on Crew Call. Great to catch up with you.
Thank you for having me on.
There we go. Dave Elenz from up at Petty GMS Motorsports joining us here on Crew Call. Stay with us. More in just a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call. Todd Gordon and Steve Post here in the Motor Racing Network studios in Concord, North Carolina. Todd, really fun talking to a guy like Dave Elenz. Just so much depth, so much wisdom, and really fun to see the excitement on that team and how that program seems to be off to a really good start.
Yeah, totally. And looking at, he talked about the transition to come into Cup, wanting to wait for the next gen car. Just really smart. Got him a clean slate of paper and got to work forward. They've had tremendous speed. I really thought they were the best car at Auto Club. They could run the pace that they did without having to run up on the wall, which a lot of guys had to, which a third place finish was not. I think wins are coming for those guys.
Yeah. I thought about this. I've had I saw the tweet that Mark Martin had, about this car separating the guys that really want to manhandle and race a car. And I know we're very, very early, so we can't proclaim this to be the case. But when I look at Eric Jones, he kind of hit a little bit of an end of the road, if you will, at Joe Gibbs Racing. This is the guy that went to the Snowball Derby and wore out Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pretty good racer. And so I'm just curious. I'm really going to watch them and see how they do, because if this car indeed does separate maybe some of the drivers a little bit, be interested to see if a guy like Eric Jones, it might play into his hand too, because they're on the edge when they're wheeling these cars. Or they were at Auto Club, they were on the edge as well.
Yeah, definitely were. And, he's, as Dave talked about, he's at the start of where he can be. He's gotten through that learning process at Cup. And I think it's going to be fun to watch these guys and see how their relationship matures. That's a lot of what that success can be built off of too, is belief in each other. And it sounds like Dave's got it, and it'd be fun to watch what they do.
Couple of Michigan guys, that's for sure. All right, so let's take a look now. We move, and Dave talked a little bit about it. We move from the no grip sweeping 2 miles at Fontana to the better grip a little bit more banking of Las Vegas. What are you going to be keeping an eye on this weekend?
Yeah, I think the difference between the two, we talk about two rough racetracks. California's got a lot of fall off in the tires, but California's roughness is really more backstretch than it is through the corners. There's roughness in the corners, but there's a lot of roughness in the backstretch into turn 3, especially. Vegas is really rough through the corners. It's dealing with that amount of input through the cars and trying to keep, as Dave talked about, trying to keep that aero platform where they want to have it and maintaining that. It's going to be a challenge for these guys. And it'll be interesting to see how the practice and qualifying session goes and where guys have to make changes because it's huge amplitudes. The bumps are big.
Really? So it's just it upsets the car.
It's
in places where you don't want your car upset.
I mean, down the straightaway is one thing. Middle of the corner is a whole different thing. So I look to see how the guys get through there. A higher grip place doesn't have as much fall off, and you can run the bottom. You can run a lane up. We used to split those up because of the bumps. You could kind of run 1 and 2 a lane higher and avoid some of the bumps and only go through with 2 wheels. You may see the guys commit to doing that. So it'll be interesting to watch what happens in practice.
Lots of good stuff. That is for sure. Friends at Performance Racing Network have coverage of the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series out there at Las Vegas. We are in Las Vegas. Part of our crew is out there. Motor Racing Network Friday night at 8:30. It's the Victoria's Voice Foundation 200 for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. And can't wait to get those trucks back on the racetrack on Friday night. So great hanging out, Todd, as always. And it was great hanging out at Auto Club. We had a lot of fun out there. Great having you as part of our MRN crew, and had a good time out there in California, and always good to catch up.
Yeah, tons to learn and tons that I did learn, and look forward to implementing forward when I do get back to the racetrack in Kansas. So these things are awesome. Dave Elenz, awesome interview and awesome start to the season. So looking forward to what they can do.
He's Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post. We appreciate Dave Elenz again joining us here on the program. More important, though, than all of that, thank you for following along and listening or watching. How about that? New words, new English. Listening or watching, however you choose to do it. Crew Call.